Hello, I'm your host, Lillymu961, and today's show
This
is going
show
to be about...
is crap!
Shut up, Nova! I'm the star here, and what I say is law. I am anime justice, darn it!
Why do I still talk to you? There is seriously something wrong with you.
No, you be quiet. One more word out of you, and I will write you in my Death Note.
Today's anime is Death Note, people. Lilly, do we have to do this?
Yes, Nova, we do, because it's a good show. But seeing as you don't want to talk about it, I'll spare you from explaining the plot. After all, unlike you, I have notes.
I have notes too. Mine don't kill people though. Death Note was made by Studio Madhouse and directed by Tetsuro Araki, who has other shows under his belt, such as High School of the Dead and Attack on Titan. It aired from October 3rd, 2006 to June 26, 2007 in Japan.
Sounds to me like the director has a pretty good track record. The original concept for Death Note was created by writer Tsugami Oba and manga artist Takashi Obata. Death Note was first serialized in 108 chapters and featured in the weekly Shonen Jump magazine from December 2003 to May 2006. Not long after, it was published into 12 manga volumes, developed into an anime, and adapted into live-action films, which are awesome, by the way. Death Note also holds the record for one of Shonen Jump's highest-selling series, having sold over 26.5 million copies. As expected with such a high-grossing series, it has a good deal of hype attached to it.
Konami also published 3 games for the Nintendo DS. Kira's Game, successor to L, and L, the prologue, to Death Note, in 2007 and 2008. But of course, hype and high ratings don't make something good. So let's stop throwing around numbers and actually talk about the show.
Okay, fine. Because I know you don't like it, but whatever. The story of Death Note revolves around high school student Light Yagami, a genius of sorts who resents the world around him, calling it rotten and despicable. Aside from this, though, he's just a normal guy who's bored out of his mind. However, someone else in a realm far away is also bored and decides to shake things up a bit. In a twist of fate, the Death Note appears, falling into the human world. Light Yagami happens to spot it, albeit in slow motion, and thus begins our tale. Like any person with half a brain cell, Light believes the notebook is a sadistic joke. But despite this knowledge, he takes the notebook home and after a little contemplation, decides to test it out, proving his theory that the notebook is just a prank to be dead wrong. Having discovered the power of the Death Note, Light decides that he is going to make a utopia, a world without evil, and thus becomes a serial killer with a god complex the size of Jupiter, using the intricate rules of the Death Note to his advantage as he goes about eliminating all the criminals he can in a show of epic penmanship and over-the-top but oddly fitting orchestra choir music.
After all, Light quickly discovers that you can't spell slaughter without laughter, and quickly attracts the notice of Interpol and the world's greatest detective, a man known only as L. L makes it his mission to stop Light, who the internet has named Kira, butchering of the English word killer, and after quickly discovering where Light lives, works with the Japanese police to try and stop Kira.
What follows is a cat-and-mouse game where Light and L attempt to hunt each other down. The show follows a strict formula for the first few episodes. Light commits mass homicide, L pokes holes in Light's plan, slowly tracking down where he is, only for Light to figure out a new clever way to use the notebook to throw suspicion away from himself before L corners him once again. This goes back and forth for a while, even up to the point where Light and L meet face to face, and from there, things start getting endlessly complicated. It's a mind game with high stakes and a slew of supporting characters that serve as L's investigation team, Kira's followers, or independent characters looking to solve the Kira case because of personal interests.
And yet almost none of the characters are around for that long. Unless one really clicks with you, you won't react to them. They'll just be extra bodies on the pile, leaving nothing missing.
Don't mind Nova, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Quiet, you! Anyways, the animation...
But you don't know what you're talking about!
Shush! I'm talking now!
Fine, whatever.
Anyway, the animation of the show is really subpar. Nothing really happens, and if you're into more of a cerebral show, that's great. But the animation itself doesn't stand the test of time. Comparing the animation of Death Note to other shows that came out the same year, like Fate Stay Night or Code Geass, it's very easy to tell that Death Note's art style was not that good in comparison, and age hasn't made it any better, especially when you start noticing things like Misa's changing eye color.
True, that is a little strange. But hasn't anyone told you that comparing everything isn't wise? Besides, Death Note's central focus isn't necessarily on the animation style. It's a faux realistic setting. The tone and shading of each episode is subdued, giving it an overall darker tone than the shows you mentioned. The animation styling has some flaws, but when the animators do decide to really animate, they have an absolute field day with it. The main focus of Death Note isn't the animation, but the characters and dialogue, with the main purpose to keep you guessing from start to finish. While some aspects can be slightly predictable, there are tons of surprises within this series. So before going on to the next topic, Nova, how about we both give a short perception on some of the characters? Let's start with Light Yagami, the evil protagonist.
Light is quite possibly the most feminine shonen protagonist in existence. He is heartless and ruthless in his actions, except when it comes to L. He develops a huge hate crush on L and decides not to kill him when he has a chance, and instead has the exploding sandbag, or Shinigami, take your pick, named Rem to do it for him.
Oh boy, not that again. I mean, seriously? It's everywhere. Why does it? Anyway, I'm not gonna comment. In my opinion, Light is the most deplorable of anime characters to agree, and that's saying something when characters like Makoto from School Days exist in the anime world. I'm not going to go into much detail because talking about Light and how horrible he is as a human being is something saved for another show. For now, I'll just say that Light Yagami is a character I love to hate. He's fun to watch, he does carry out the show, but in general, I don't like him. So, next up, Detective L. Can't talk today.
L really does not seem as smart as he's built up to be if a freshman university student can outthink him multiple times. He also looks sort of like a raccoon. And he reciprocates Light's crush, but he doesn't get the chance to properly act on it because...
What? Are you crazy? Are you nuts?
I am not...
No, hush. Just hush with that craziness. I view L as one of the most unique anime characters I've seen. He's a genius, but very eccentric in that genius. He's very introverted, but that adds to his overall charm, mainly because he's so smart yet knows nothing about social cues, which makes for some really funny moments within the series. L can be serious, yet utterly silly at the same time, especially with his cake obsession. Still, anyone who eats that many sweets also has to be sweet, right? Yum! Anyway, on to Misa Amane.
Misa. She's the generic airhead ditz of the show, who keeps changing her eye color between blue and brown and red.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
She has no lasting impact on the series when you look at it as a whole, and she even serves as more of a hindrance than an asset to Light all the time. She's pretty, but she's loud and annoying in a show where the audio is the one thing you're supposed to focus on.
Yeah, and she's always like, touch me, Light. I'm sorry, I had to say something like that. Because she's crazy. She's so crazy. Okay. But yeah, I could agree that Misa's a bit airheaded and kind of annoying. Her devotion to Light is definitely misguided, but I don't mind her too much. She's the plot point that makes everything more complicated, and if you decide to watch the show after this review, you'll see why. Next, Ryuk.
Ryuk. He's also a little bit annoying, but more of in a subdued way. He's not obnoxious in your face like Misa. He also adds some charm to the series by constantly always pointing out whenever Light does something stupid. So, but then halfway through he just disappears and sorta isn't there.
I don't really think he's annoying at all, though. I mean, I agree. Well, let me think about it for a second. Because I totally lost my place in the script. But yeah, yeah, we write the script, people.
Live, everybody!
Anyway. Okay, but yeah, I agree about him adding some charm to the show, because at times, like, it can get, like, too tense, and so he's very funny at times, and when his obsession with apples comes into play, it's good stuff.
I'm more a PC guy myself.
Okay, let's go to Soichiro Yagami next.
The Chief. He's one of the two characters I really liked in this show. It's sad how much he wants to believe in Light and how committed he is to catching Kira at the same time. It just breaks my heart watching him.
I know, I really felt sorry for him. I mean, throughout the whole series, you know that his son is Kira, and you want him to, like, catch Kira, but at the same time, you know he's gonna be heartbroken when he finds out that his son is Kira, and so the whole thing is just messed up. But life goes on. Next, Matsuda.
I didn't really care for anyone on the Kira investigation task force, except for Aizawa a little bit, but Matsuda...
Aizawa was fun.
Yeah, but Matsuda, he's just as bad as Misa, and when the characters on the show are telling him to shut up, you know that you're doing something wrong. And it happens every single time he opens his mouth.
Sure, but Matsuda is still fun. I mean, he's such a silly idiot. I adore his foolishness because he's just so stupid. I love him. He's adorably stupid. Anyway, now let's talk about Nier, someone who's smart in the show.
Nier. Nier makes me feel confused. He's a boy, but oh, his voice is so dreamy.
Fun fact, he's voiced by a woman in the English dub.
Oh, that explains so much. He's the only one who actually shows actual ability in catching Kira, and he's the only character I really, really liked. Though, to be fair, I could have done it if he wasn't crushing on Light the whole time.
He was not crushing on Light the whole time.
He was.
You quit with that.
No.
No. Enough. Hush. One more word. You got one more time. One more. Anyway, Nier is pretty much the saving grace of the show's second half. But at the same time, I wasn't really invested in his character. I like him though. He's cool. He had a good speech at the end of the anime. Anyway, on to Mello. And don't you do it. I know what you're gonna do.
Mello was an arrogant jerk, but in the end, he did sacrifice himself for the greater good. So, Mello gets the Nova seal of approval, even though I wasn't a big fan of him.
That's my Nova. Cause in our scripting, he cursed and he knows how I hate cursing. Anyway, as for Mello, the character, all I have to say is, chocolate! Chocolate! Anyway, next we're gonna talk about Kiyomi Takara and Teru Mikumi. They're kind of the same character in a way, so we're just gonna talk about them together.
First of all, my ears. Ow.
You know you like the chocolate!
Anyways, Takada and Mikumi, they're both essentially useless. They have no character traits out of do exactly what Kira tells you. And because they have no character, they're not really worth discussing.
And without further ado, let's talk about the music in this series. Your thoughts, Nova?
Well, I didn't really find any standout tracks in the music. It was all just sort of okay. The first opening wasn't spectacular. It was good, but not spectacular. There are some way better openings. There are also some way worse, like the second opening to Death Note. That is, unless you have a big thing for death metal, you're not gonna enjoy it. I was ready to turn off the show right there.
The background music has a lot of orchestration in it, which is used fairly well, though at times it's a little over the top. I mean, there's this one scene where they were playing like the over toilet paper, and it's like, what? But anyway, the soundtrack is also heavy on guitar solos in the background during dialogue, and at times it's a little too loud when the characters speak softly, but there are at least two standout tracks for me. One is simply called Death Note, which is basically a guitar theme that builds into an epic guitar solo. Elf's themes are good too, as well as a theme that's titled Death Note Main Theme. This is a good one too, full of orchestra epic goodness. As for the openings and endings, the first opening, The World by Nightmare, that Nova was talking about earlier, is pretty good. It gets the energy going in the show. The second opening is awful. It's horrible. And I'll come back to that in a second. It's just, ooh, it's bad. But anyway, the first ending theme, Illumina, also by Nightmare, is my favorite in the series. It's awesome. And if you look up the English lyrics for it, it really fits the tone of how Light feels about the world. So I think it's fabulous. The second ending, I used to hate it, but it has grown on me a little. I don't like heavy metal, but the singing portions of the second ending are pretty cool, so it grew on me a little. The second opening theme and ending themes are both by Maximum the Hormone, like, you know, the ones that we don't like. And then the first two are by Nightmare.
Alright, so and our scores for the show, time to wrap this up. Our scores are an average of the story, the characters, the animation, the music, and our own personal enjoyment, which has me giving Death Note a 5.1 out of 10. I did not like the show at all. It has a solid story with a few characters who are interesting, but at the end of the day, anime is as much a visual medium as it is an auditory medium. If you're not even going to try to please the eyes, you get Death Note.
As you can see, Nova and I have drastically different opinions on this. While Death Note isn't necessarily a glorious feast for the eyes every second, it has good moments. Plus, it not only has an anime medium, but a live-action adaptation, which improves on many of the elements the anime presented, in my opinion. So, combining the story, characters, animation, music, and my personal enjoyment, I give it a 8.62 out of 10. I wouldn't call Death Note my favorite anime ever. That slot would forever belong, that slot belongs to Code Geass, which Nova and I will review in the near future. But Death Note is still a fun, psychological thrill ride that'll help you mentally burn tons of calories, even if you eat loads upon loads of strawberry shortcake. Death Note is available from Viz Media and can be purchased on Amazon. I always recommend screening a show before buying, but if you know you're going to like it, go ahead and buy the show. Even if you don't like it, there's bound to be someone else that will.
So yeah, I don't like the show at all, but it might be your cup of tea. My rule is to watch 5 episodes because if a show can't pick up by then, you can tell there will be some issues. Anyway, this is Nova signing off. Wait a minute, what were you writing back there, Lily?
Oh, nothing. Nothing you need to be concerned about, Nova. I'm making a grocery list. I have to go shopping after this. Anyway, I'm Lillymu961. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to check out our channels. They'll be in the description. Have a great day.
Was that really a grocery list? I can't help but think you're lying to me.
25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Why
31.
are you counting?
Huh?
Why are you counting?
Oh, I suppose it's because I'm the new Kira.
You suck, Lily.
I win.